welcome. My name's Sam and this is the Little Greenhouse Creates. Thank you for joining me today and welcome to our final card or project for this week's project of the month. Now, if you saw me on Monday, the project of the month was from May and we had these 3 beautiful papers to create this card, and then on Wednesday I showed you the project of the month for June, which were these 4 beautiful characters. Today we're going to mush them all together and make ourselves a funky fold. So in case you don't know, a product of the month looks a bit like this, or June's one does anyway. If you purchase £70 or more in one sitting, that entitles you to purchase a one-off item that is from the month that you are in. So if you were in May, you could purchase the designer series papers. However, there are some left, so you can still purchase these papers, or they were when I started the videos. But for June, the stamp set is the Wild Bunch, and this is what you would get for £5 for any purchases £70 or over in one go. Right, hope that makes sense. So as I have shown you, this was Monday's video, which was all the papers, and this was Wednesday's, which is the animals. And as I said, we're going to mush them together and we are going to create ourselves a funky fold, which is this card here. So it lies flat like so, but then when it opens, it stands like that. It has a flap that opens. Oh, she says, I'm trying to open it. There we go. So you can make all your messages in there. Okay, so I have got, as you can see, I'm in this card, I have used the Peaceful Pine, and I've used the designer series paper to help create the column here, and then I've got these koala bears peeking out. So let's bring in the supplies. I am using Blackberry Bliss to begin with. So my first piece of Blackberry Bliss is the outside, which is 8 inches by 5 3/4. I will score that with you in a moment because we are going to score it at the 4-inch mark, but we are going to do other score marks as well. So the second piece I've got of the Blackberry Bliss is this one, which is 2 3/4 by 11 inches, and I've already scored that one at the 5.5, and then we can fold it in half. Let's move these. I'm just trying to be careful because I didn't want to lose the designer series paper. That's why I'm being a little bit. Okay, so one of these is, so there's 2 of those, so that's 2 at 2.5 by 5.25. There we go, and they fit one there, and then they fit one in there. Okay, so that gives you like the card effect. Then we have strips. So we have 3 strips of white card. These all measure 3/4 of an inch by 5.5. And as I said, there's 3 of those, so that's 3/4 of an inch by 5.5. Then I have 3 pieces of the vellum. These measure 5/8 by 3 5/8, and so when you get to stick them down, you get that little border all the way around the edge, just to give it a little pop. Okay, and that's those 3. There is a 4th piece, which I'm trying to keep separate, and this one is 3/4 of an inch by 5.25, and so is the designer series paper, or the vellum in this case. So that is 3/4 of an inch by 5.25. Phew, lots of little pieces. Then I have 2 pieces, which measure 1/2 inch by 2.25, 2 of those, and that is for the sentiment. So normally I would start stamping straight away, but for this particular card, I am going to do the scoring and the sticking, and you'll see why in a moment. Right, so back to our 8 inches by 5 3/4. So with the 8 inches at the top, we're going to bring in our trimmer, and we're going to score it at 1 inch increments up to 4 from the left hand side going towards the middle. So we've got 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and then 4 inches. And I've done that totally off camera, so I do apologise. So 4, 3, 2, and then the 1 inch. So you've got these 4 beautiful 4 lines. Okay, get rid of that for the second. Bringing in the bone folder, we're going to burnish on all 4 marks. So 4, then we're going to do the 3, 2, and then the 1 inch. And what you will see will happen is that they will all roll round onto each other. Unfortunately, with Blackberry Bliss, it's a bit difficult to see, and it gives you that column. Okay, so, but before we do that, we need to stick our designer series paper on. Because I'm using vellum, I'm using white cardstock behind it. If you were using designer series paper, you would not need to do so unless you wish to. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to run a strip down there, and then I'm going to make sure that the edges at the top and the sides are similar, and then when I get down to the bottom, that should still be the case. There we go. So there's the first one. Let's do it again. Up to the top. It's a little bit dark in here today. I've got all my lights on, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it's very hot here in England at the moment. And so trying to keep the house cool, I've got all the curtains closed and the windows, but I'm hoping that the fan that is behind me is not too noisy. And if it is, I send my apologies. If I don't have it, I would melt. Okay, let's try that a little bit easier. It doesn't quite get it even. That's better. There we go. Perfect. Right, so they're the 3 that we're going to stick on the outside. Now this one here, which is the one nearest to the edge, this one we don't need to use, because what we're going to do is this is going to be glued and then it will stick down. So missing the first one, we are going to stick the 3 panels across like so. Okay, so let's get some, let's use glue. It gives us a bit of wiggle room. It's weird, isn't it? The heat, sometimes they overflow and sometimes they, like this one, so this one's overflowing, the other one is refusing to let me have any glue. So that one goes into there like so. Then we're going to bring the next one. As you can see, the glue is just seeping out. That's to the next one. There we go. Just want to make sure that they are fitted in the bend. There we go. The middle, perfect. And then the final one will go on the edge. Oh, really don't want all that glue. See if I can push some of it down. There we go. Right. Okay. There we are. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put glue onto this outside line, onto here. And that is going to roll over, and you're going to put this edge down the final score line so they meet. You could do it like that, and then you're going to bring it over and make sure it matches. So you've got your cut. So what you need to know is make sure it lays flat that way, because obviously that's the way it's going to lay in your card. Let's try not move that paper, and there we go. Okay, so there is our initial card. So the next thing we need to do is we need to bring in our foldy piece. So this is going to give you the flap. So the first piece, I'm just going to pop that into the middle, like so. Then I'm going to turn the glue onto here. And I'm going to lift it up, and then I'm going to push that down and make sure that it is central all the way on all four sides. Okay, so that when it stands, you can have it come out like this. Make it stand, there we go. Okay, right, so the next thing we need to do is we're actually going to do our stamping. So we're going to work out roughly where this is going to go. We're then going to bring this over and close it. With a pencil, we're going to draw a line, faint line all the way down, like so. This then knows where this is going to be covered with our designer series paper. So we won't see whatever's on this side, but we're going to stamp on here. So for this one, I've got my little penguin peeking out, and I'm going to stamp him in Memento black ink. Okay, so I'm going to put one at the bottom. I want him to pop out so we can see him. There's one. I'm going to do two, one at the top. There, he's popping out. And then I'm going to have one in the middle. And he's going to pop out. Okay, so before I colour him in, or them in, should I say, I'm then going to bring in the present, and I'm going to stamp that in Black Brew Bliss. So, okay, we're going to put one there, and then one on there. So I've got myself, this is Petal Pink in dark, and I'm just going to give my little penguin some cheeky rosy cheeks. Cheeky rosy? Rosy cheeks. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my light basic black and just colour in the bits that I think need to be done. So we've got his little head. Okay, and you got a bit there on his wing, and then down his back. What I hadn't realised is his paws. So what I might do is I might paint those in the Petal Pink in a minute. So let's just do his head and his flipper, or his wings. There we go. Lovely. And then we can give him... Right. So let's bring in the dark Petal Pink again. And we're going to just colour in his flipper. So it stands up. Okay, so that's literally all the colouring. So it's quite quick and easy. Now what's going to happen is this is going to go back onto here. Going to glue down so that when you close this up, you've got your little penguins peeking round. So if you wanted to, you could move it slightly over. There we go. So they're just peeking through. So let's take our glue and put it on the back of that one. Right, before I firm it down, I'm just going to make sure that my... There we go. They're all poked through, lovely. Now obviously we don't want this section to be seam, so this is where we come into our 3/4 by 5 1/4. Yeah, 5 1/4. So we're going to adhere these two together. So all the way down. And I am going to stick that so that they don't show sides. There we are. This, once stuck down, can now go over the side of our little penguin. So he is peeking through. So let's glue that. Actually, let's do the glue. There we are. And what I'm making sure is that the line is up and covered. There we go. Perfect. So that goes over, and you can see that our penguin is hiding through. So the last thing we need to do is to add our sentiments. So I've taken the happy birthday from the stamp set, and I'm going to ink that up in the black. I'm going to stamp it twice. Obviously you could use different sentiments. You could put wishing you on one and then a happy birthday on the other, or whatever you have available. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to do the happy birthday. So we've got 1 and then 2. There we go. Now the easiest thing to do, so I know roughly where I'm going to put these. I'm going to put them so they appear there, and one, if I can pick it up, it goes there. So for me, I'm just going to take my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put a bit on it, and then I'm going to, because I only want it on this panel that is stuck down, work out where I'm going to put it. I think there. I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on this bit. Okay. And then we're just going to put a bit on there. And then we can add our happy birthday on here. Perfect. So that is our column card completed. So we've got the penguins and we've got the koalas. Keeps moving around, so apologies. So I hope you like our final card for this week for product of the month. And of course we've used the papers from May and the stamp set from June. So thank you ever so much for joining me this week, and I hope to catch up with you next week. Take care. Bye.